Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're not only looking at some of the best games in the Nintendo 64's library, but those that have aged better than any others.
Boy, am I glad to see you, Marina!
But before we dive in, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Yoshi's Story. Yoshi's solo games have stuck with a lovable, handmade visual aesthetic over the years, and just like its predecessor on the Super Nintendo, Yoshi's Story still has a lot of charm when it comes to its graphics. Naturally, that makes it an easy pick for games that have aged well. So too do the simple yet engaging mechanics that anyone can pick up and master. Sure, it's one of the easiest games you'll find on this list, and it doesn't exactly break new ground, but that doesn't mean it isn't an enjoyable platforming romp. Any fan of Mario's Dino Pals should definitely check it out. WWF No Mercy. The N64 saw a few strong wrestling games throughout its lifetime, and of the bunch, WWF No Mercy just may be the best. While its visuals certainly show their age, what early 3D game featuring realistic depictions doesn't, gameplay is what matters here. And it's still a damn fun time. It's a perfect evolution of what came before it, with smooth controls that made it a great multiplayer title outside of the traditional Nintendo fare. There's a huge roster of wrestlers to choose from, as well as a surprisingly in-depth character creator to craft your own superstar. Wrestling fans still show this game a ton of love decades later, and it's easy to see why. Pokemon Snap. The concept of photographing Pokemon in their natural habitats, of unlocking ways to get that perfect shot and explore a few mysteries along the way, remains an entirely novel one. Maybe it seems dull from the outside looking in, but for fans of the franchise, Pokemon Snap gave us a new, cozy way to experience our favorite powerful critters. Even though it's relatively easy and short, that doesn't matter. It tapped into the idea that Pokemon can be enjoyed from other angles other than battling, and did so really well. It eventually got a sequel on Switch that's objectively better, but there's something about the original's appeal that is still delightful to experience. Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. There isn't much to choose from when it comes to the tactics genre on the N64, but we can say with certainty that Ogre Battle 64 is the cream of the crop. Everything about it feels and looks timeless, including its fantastical plot focusing on a civil war. Even its visuals, while early 3D, are subtle and harken back to its 16-bit predecessors, making it look like it could have been released at any time. And the gameplay? Well, it's got all the strategic planning and class balancing that fans of the genre should love. Although it received several awards, it wasn't too strong a seller, making it one of the more underplayed gems on the system. Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. You just can't go wrong with a Kirby game. While they're all enjoyable, the Crystal Shards remains one of our favorites. A lot of it is due to how Nintendo and HAL Laboratory took the winning formula and tweaked it with small but noteworthy changes. The first entry to use 3D, it still played from a 2.5D perspective, giving some new life to its level design while remaining traditional. More important was letting us mix any two copy abilities, making for a variety of combinations to try out. Each new one felt like a discovery and was a ton of fun to use against enemies. With simple yet intuitive mechanics, it's still a joy to play. Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2.
This is it, the showdown against Blaine. The leader of Cinnabar Gym is a fire Pokemon technician. Treat him lightly and you'll get burned.
You can get the same level of enjoyment from either Pokemon Stadium game, since they're pretty similar. And whether you're a new fan or an older one, you're bound to have a good time. While part of the enjoyment is likely gone, the ability to transfer your Pokemon in from the Game Boy titles that have grown exceptionally expensive over the years, you can always select your own team and set their levels for battles against others. Essentially, these games cut out the story for a more battle-focused experience. Or you can partake in some of the most surprisingly enjoyable mini-games the N64 has to offer. Either way, they're still some of the best home console experiences Pokemon fans can find. Mischief Makers.
Shake, shake. Shake, shake.
One of the most underrated games in the N64's library, Mischief Makers has sadly never been ported or digitally released anywhere. Still, if you have the opportunity, it's a genuine blast. It's another game whose visuals have aged better than most since it's a side-scrolling platformer, but it also has a straightforward yet addictive gameplay hook. As the robot, Marina Lightyears, you set out to save your captured creator. You do so by grabbing and shaking the environment and enemies, which has different effects depending on what you're grabbing and shaking. It's a light, quick-paced platformer that deserves a lot more love than it ever got.
Let's go. Yeah.
Mario Party 2 and Mario Party 3. You'd be hard-pressed to find any Mario Party that isn't a fun party game. And thankfully, the first entries on N64 are just as entertaining now as they were back then. Well, except for the first, which featured some mini-games that caused players hand injuries and Nintendo a lot of legal fees, but we're focusing on the positives here. The second game is often considered the gold standard, and its sequel is just as fun. Part of the reason they've aged so well is their simplicity. Anyone can be good at any of the minigames, and anyone can experience a stroke of profound unluckiness or outright betrayal, making these games deceptively competitive.
Yeah! Waluigi the winner!
Donkey Kong 64. As most will tell you, Rare went overboard with the collectibles in this game, and trying to find them all is something we wouldn't recommend most players do. If you're just trying to experience it regularly, it's still another glorious result of the studio's partnership with Nintendo. With different abilities spread across the 5 playable characters, there's a decent amount of variety for gameplay compared to most other 3D platformers of the time. The levels are also some of the best Rare has ever built, with tantalizing corners to dig into and some engaging obstacles to overcome. This game has a lot of staunch defenders, and only something really special can bring out that level of passion. Perfect Dark. The N64 saw the early days of FPS titles making their way to consoles. There were a lot of solid ones, but Perfect Dark is the crown jewel. As Agent Joanna Dark, you're sucked into a thrilling sci-fi plot involving aliens and a wealth of political intrigue. The weapons and gunplay are just as exciting, carrying you forward as you dig deeper. That's not to mention some pretty stellar multiplayer modes, making this both a great single-player experience and competitive party game. I'm sure a lot of you will also point to Rare's other shooter, GoldenEye 007, which does deserve praise as one of the system's best games. But in terms of which has aged better and which we'd recommend seeking out today, Perfect Dark all the way.
Can't detach that tube from the fuselage. Can you take it out?
Piece of cake, Joanna. What's this?
Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
I'm clear, but my bike was down.
Factor 5 and LucasArts took the most thrilling thing about Star Wars that doesn't involve lightsabers and the Force and made a fantastic flight combat game. While the use of distance fog definitely shows the game's age, there's no denying how it controls. Gameplay is as smooth as it ever was, putting players in the middle of treacherous dogfights against the minions of the Empire. With recognizable locations and a plot set between episodes 4 and 5, there's plenty of nostalgia to enjoy. And with different objective types, a range of combat vehicles for mission replays, and enticing unlockable content, it gives you everything you could ask for. Well, except for multiplayer.
Did Skywalker make that shot? That was me. Man, I thought I was the best. Hey!
Star Fox 64.
Your father helped me like that, too. It can't be happening.
Nintendo knows a thing or two about making its own flight combat games as well. Still considered the gold standard when it comes to Fox's adventures, Star Fox 64 has aged incredibly well. Flying through the Lilat system, shooting down enemy pilots and bots never gets old thanks to the precise controls. Branching paths offer variety for any playthrough, while its multiplayer modes make it a great party game. And its stellar voice acting gave us some of the most iconic lines in all of gaming.
Do a barrel roll!
With this release, Nintendo also introduced the world to Rumble and controllers via the Rumble Pack peripheral, an immersive feature that's still evolving today. If you've never played this historic game, it's time for a little homework.
It's time to try our new weapon. Cocky little frick!
Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. All these years later, and these games are still some of the best the 3D platforming genre has ever seen. The brightly colored worlds, the wonderfully wacky characters and writing, it all feels like you're playing through a Saturday morning cartoon. Rare showed it didn't know the meaning of sophomore slump when it released the follow-up. With grander worlds and even more inventive abilities, Banjo-Tooie was a near-perfect evolution of what was already fantastic. Of the many gems on the N64, these two are some of the best at making us feel like kids again each time we replay them. And if you've ever wondered why some players never shut up about wanting them to return, you should really see for yourself. Paper Mario. A lot of early 3D games showed their age only a few years after their release, but as you can see, Paper Mario doesn't really have that problem. The storybook-inspired art style is timeless and charming, with Nintendo enhancing it only slightly with each subsequent entry over the years. But there's more going on here than its visually unique presentation. It's also a great way to get into RPGs, as the mechanics aren't overly complex. While the story doesn't break any new ground, the delightful supporting cast makes the Mushroom Kingdom feel more alive than it ever had before. There aren't a lot of RPGs on the N64, and this one is still the absolute best. Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Big ball of poo. Oh, thanks. Just, you're welcome to it, mate. Thanks.
Part of what makes Conker so great is Rare's continued perfection when it comes to platforming mechanics. But another part is the subversion of what anyone would expect a game about a cute squirrel to be. Suffering from the worst hangover imaginable, Conker must make it through a series of hilarious sidetracks on his way home. Mountains of mature humor and violence blended with the kid-friendly image resulted in a game unlike any before or since. And with every level themed around a different genre, they all feel fresh and exciting. Conker goes from fighting a giant pile of feces to adventuring in prehistoric times to surviving hordes of the undead. And it is all just as wild as it sounds.
He was a great guy. A superb soldier. A military tactician. And yet, he was mortal. Like the rest of us.
Super Mario 64. Although its camera hasn't aged well, just about everything else in Super Mario 64 has. And it impeccably showcases how much of a master developer Nintendo is. The world's sandbox environments gave an element of exploration not seen in past Mario games. And the mascot's controls feel so great that exploring is an absolute treat. Given the game's structure of collecting stars, there's also an openness to it as you'll unlock different worlds before completing the objectives in any single world. While none of this may sound that impressive now, it's because of Super Mario 64's success that so many followed in its footsteps. There's a reason it's considered a pinnacle in game design, and every player owes it to themselves to experience it.
Here we go!
Diddy Kong Racing. While it's often overshadowed by a certain other kart racer, Diddy Kong Racing still has plenty for players to enjoy more than 25 years later. It offers a surprising amount of variety for the time it was released that could affect a player's experience. Different weight classes and vehicle types, which include kart, airplane, and hovercraft, need to be considered for the different terrain of each course. Different colored balloons also give racers a specific item, so there's a bit more strategy overall and a bit less randomness. Additionally, a story mode gives single players more enjoyment than simply racing computers. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Despite their age, these games remain two of Link's most enjoyable adventures. Ocarina of Time is a definitive must-play. It transitioned the franchise into 3D almost flawlessly, with engaging world design, fantastic dungeons and puzzles, and a targeting mechanic still used today. Its classic adventure story makes it relatable for any player. Majora's Mask is another astounding feat for different reasons. The requirement of the N64's expansion pack led to better graphics, while its dark themes of loss and grief make it a much more nuanced tale. The transformation mechanic via masks brought new layers to the already incredible gameplay of Ocarina. With Majora being a direct, although very different sequel to Ocarina, they're each an excellent companion to the other, and both are standouts in one of Nintendo's most revered IPs. Super Smash Bros. It can be difficult for new players to jump into the Super Smash Bros. Series considering how much it has evolved over the years. But any type of player can still enjoy the original. The first of Nintendo's fighting crossovers still shows how genius of an idea it was, pitting characters like Mario, Link, Pikachu, and Samus against one another. Although characters move more slowly and have one less special attack, that doesn't deter from the fun. There's still a level of chaos that comes when a Pokeball appears, and still an air of competition between you and your friends. But everything is just a bit more manageable. Plus, it can be nice to visit the simple origins of gaming's most inventive fighter.
Game set!
Mario Kart 64. No matter where you are or who you're with, If you bust out Mario Kart 64 and a few controllers, you're bound to have fun. While it doesn't feature the level of variety in Diddy Kong Racing, its quick-paced gameplay, frantic items, and wonderful hazard-filled tracks more than make up for it. It has aged much better than its predecessor in every way, from its track design to its addictive battle mode that tested friendships the world over. Mario Kart 64 is the definition of a classic party game that would send many into a nostalgia-induced haze of fond memories. And for anyone playing it for the first time, the building blocks for future entries will clearly be seen.
I'm the best!
If there's a game on the N64 you think people should still check out, be sure to sing its praises in the comments. And we'll see you next time.
Game set. This game's winner is Pikachu.